story begins as a boy named Rentaro who was just like any other ordinary kid. He had a big crush on a girl and finally mustered the courage to confess his feelings to her. Much to his surprise, the girl admitted that she liked him too. It should have been a moment of joy, but there was a twist. The girl, while admitting her feelings, couldn't bear the thought of actually dating Rentaro. This rejection hit him hard, leaving him feeling utterly crushed. As he walked back home, a friend accompanied him. It was during this walk that we discovered something quite astonishing. This was Rentaro's 100th rejection. His friend couldn't believe it. They were just fresh out of middle school, and Rentaro had already asked out 100 girls. It boggled his mind. Rentaro couldn't help but reminisce about the first time he asked a girl out when he was a mere 8 months old. Yes, you read that correctly. He had been on this quest for a girlfriend since he was a baby. Rentaro was determined to know what it felt like to have a girlfriend. He had the looks, and he was no slouch when it came to grades. But for some reason, he couldn't secure a date. This frustrated him to no end. His friend, while poking fun at him, wished him luck in high school as they parted ways. With a heavy heart, Rentaro decided to visit a shrine. There, he prayed to the god of love, hoping that high school would be his chance to finally get a girlfriend. Suddenly, he heard a voice and, incredibly, a face popped out of the shrine's donation box. This strange man claimed to be the shrine's god, and he had wings to prove it. The winged god told Rentaro that not only would he meet his soulmate in high school, but that he would have a whopping 100 soulmates to choose from. This news filled Rentaro with hope, but he also swore to destroy the shrine if the god turned out to be a liar. Fast forward 1 month, and it's Rentaro's first day of high school. On his way to the classroom, he accidentally bumps into 2 girls, Inda and Hikari. A strange sensation tingles through them as their eyes meet. Rentaro begins to wonder if they might be the soulmates the shrine's god mentioned. Being the helpful person he is, Rentaro rushes to assist the girls to their feet. However, Hikari suddenly fakes an ankle injury, asking Rentaro to accompany her to the nurse's office. Rentaro is distressed, thinking he's harmed his soulmate. Hikari, on the other hand, starts to admire him for his kindness. Inda, feeling left out, pretends to twist her ankle too. Rentaro, feeling responsible for both girls, starts to blame himself. To his surprise, the girls stand up and act just fine. But they quickly go back to pretending, leaving Rentaro baffled. He takes them to the nurse's office, but he can't help but feel like he's the one being carried away by the situation. The girls pretend to lose their balance, and they start vying for his attention, clinging to him as they make their way to the nurse's office. Once there, Rentaro introduces himself to the girls and discovers that they are all in the same class. As if this weren't enough excitement for one day, 2 other girls casually mention a field of pink 4-leaf clovers in the courtyard. They claim that if you ask someone out with a pink 4-leaf clover, they're guaranteed to say yes. Suddenly, Inda and Hikari dash off, leaving Rentaro bewildered, especially since their legs seemed perfectly fine. Once school was over, Rentaro stayed behind to help a teacher find his lost contact lens. While he was getting ready to leave, he couldn't help but wonder if he'd cross paths with those 2 girls again. Much to his delight, he spotted them in the school courtyard. Inda was on a mission to find a rare 4-leaf clover, and Rentaro discreetly watched her progress. When Inda noticed him, she seemed taken aback and attempted to act as though she wasn't searching for the clover. Rentaro, however, quickly realized that Hikari was absent, so he kindly offered Inda a drink. Initially, she appeared a bit shy to accept it, making Rentaro wonder if she found him strange, especially since they had only just met. However, her demeanor suddenly changed, and she snatched the drink from him, declaring that she'd drink it all so it wouldn't go to waste. Rentaro then suggested that she should head home because it was getting late. Inda, while irritated by his advice, still thanked him for the drink, revealing her aloof personality. Out of the blue, Inda dashed away, and Hikari returned. Rentaro, always considerate, offered her a drink too. However, Hikari had different plans. She wanted to share the drink with Rentaro to have an indirect kiss. She claimed that she couldn't finish it by herself and insisted that Rentaro share it with her. Rentaro had anticipated this, so he'd already brought a smaller drink for her. Nevertheless, she continued to insist that she couldn't manage it on her own. So, Rentaro agreed and took a sip before passing the drink to Hikari. Unexpectedly, Hikari panicked and spilled the drink on the ground. Rentaro thought she might be upset because she really liked the drink. Being the kind soul he was, he offered his handkerchief to help her clean up. Instead of taking the handkerchief, Hikari surprised Rentaro by holding his hand and confessing her love for him. She explained that she had to confess quickly because there was someone else who had feelings for him. Rentaro was overjoyed to receive his first ever confession, but hadn't had a chance to respond when Inda suddenly returned to the scene. She had bought a bunch of drinks to repay Rentaro, but upon discovering Hikari's confession, she became quite upset. Inda felt left out and became angry with Hikari for not informing her of the situation and for jumping ahead in line. Rentaro was surprised to learn that Inda also had feelings for him. After some initial hesitation, she too ended up confessing her feelings to him. The two girls asked Rentaro who he would choose, but he suggested they wait for the answer until the next day. Rentaro found himself in a difficult situation. He couldn't decide between the two girls he'd met. Both Inda and Hikari had confessed their feelings for him, and he was torn. So, he decided to seek guidance at the shrine. At the shrine, he turned to the god of love for help. The god revealed something surprising. Both girls were his soulmates. Rentaro was puzzled, wondering how people usually handled having two soulmates. The god explained that most people only had one, but when Rentaro was born, a mistake had occurred. The god had been too busy watching TV and accidentally assigned Rentaro a whopping 100 soulmates instead of just one. This revelation left Rentaro feeling doomed. The god went on to explain that if a person couldn't be with their soulmate, they would die because they couldn't be with the one they loved. This weighed heavily on Rentaro's mind as he thought about one of the girls dying, making his decision even more challenging. But then, a peculiar idea crossed Rentaro's mind. He considered rejecting both girls and secretly dating them behind each other's backs. The following morning, he met the girls, looking disheveled. Finally, he mustered the courage to tell them that he wanted to date both of them. Inda was shocked by this revelation, but Rentaro couldn't bring himself to lie to them. He confessed his love for both of them and promised to do everything in his power to make them the happiest girls ever. The girls were on the verge of rejecting him when Rentaro surprised them with pink four-leaf clovers he had spent all night searching for. Inda ridiculed him for believing in such superstitions, but Hikari reminded her that they both believed in it once. Inda initially refused to accept the idea of sharing Rentaro, but he explained that he had picked the clovers because he had seen how hard they were looking for them, and he simply wanted to make them happy. Overwhelmed by his heartfelt gesture, Hikari agreed to be with him, believing that being with him while sharing might still make her happier than being rejected. Inda, not wanting to let Hikari have Rentaro to herself, also agreed to be with him. Hikari teased Inda for changing her mind, and Rentaro promised to cherish them both. Yet, Rentaro still wondered about his other 98 soulmates. The story continues as Rentaro is overjoyed about having a girlfriend. He was talking to a pole, thinking it was his girlfriend, but his excitement was mistaken for something weird by the two girls, Inda and Hikari, who were actually his real girlfriends. Inda was creeped out and wondered why he was talking to a pole, while Rentaro explained that he was just so happy that he couldn't contain himself. Inda suggested that he talk to her instead, but she ended up feeling too embarrassed. Seizing the opportunity, Hikari decided to hold Rentaro's hand, and he was overwhelmed by the sensation. Inda started feeling jealous and grabbed his hand as well. They walked happily together to school. When they arrived at school, they saw a boy running, being chased by the strict vice principal. Hikari mentioned that the vice principal was known for being strict, and that if she caught someone running in school, she would give them a kiss. Rentaro was concerned that this might cause emotional damage. Hikari then asked Rentaro if he had ever kissed anyone before, and he admitted that he hadn't since they were his first girlfriends. Hearing this, Hikari and Inda realized that one of them could be the first to kiss him. During lunch, they spent time together. While Inda was distracted by a cat, Hikari fed an egg roll to Rentaro, which he loved so much that he started crying. Inda got jealous and revealed that she had made cookies for him. However, when she tried to feed him, she accidentally hit him in the eye. Rentaro ate her cookie and told her it was amazing. Hikari then took out a snack, but it was broken. She wondered how to feed Rentaro without getting her hands dirty, so she decided to feed him with her mouth. Seeing Hikari so close, Rentaro thought she was adorable and started getting closer to her. Inda tried to join in but ended up poking Rentaro in the eye with her hair. This made Rentaro sneeze and break the snack. Hikari noticed that Rentaro's eyes were all red and worried that he had a cold. She grabbed onto him, saying he could get better by passing it on, and tried to kiss him. However, Inda got in the way, saying they couldn't be sure he had a cold. She suggested checking his temperature through their lips, claiming it was a family tradition. Inda attempted to make Rentaro pass out so she could give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but Hikari pushed her away. Both girls ended up angry at each other. Rentaro finally realizes that Inda and Hikari want to kiss him. Inda doesn't agree, but her expression gives away their intentions. He's shocked to know they both want to kiss him. Rentaro offers to kiss them too because he's been wanting to do it as well. However, Hikari explains that he has to choose who he will kiss first, which leads to another argument. Rentaro stops the fight and offers a solution he had planned the day before when he was too excited. He thought about making both girls happy, so he suggests keeping the first kiss a mystery. They will both have an equal chance of being his first kiss, and he'll consider both of their kisses as his first. The girls are worried about how to keep it a mystery, but Rentaro explains his plan. They will wear masks and cover their ears. Using a dice, the girls will randomly determine their positions, and he will kiss them without knowing who is who. After that, they will switch positions again, so he won't know who he kissed first. Hakari thinks it's a great idea, but Inda is concerned that Rentaro might cheat. Rentaro reveals his solution, which is to make a pinky promise that they won't cheat. Inda finds it silly, but Rentaro promises that he'll do something extreme if he breaks the promise. The girls agree to the plan, and they start carrying it out. Rentaro was worried about accidentally bumping into Inda and Hakari during their plan because he couldn't see. He tried to figure out their positions and ended up touching Hakari's chest, instantly recognizing her. They had to start over. As they tried again, a gust of wind lifted Inda's skirt, and a cat began clawing at it. Inda thought Rentaro was the one touching her and kicked him away, starting to beat him up. Her headphones fell out, and she realized it was the cat. They attempted the plan again, but something always went wrong, and they couldn't kiss. Everyone was upset, and Inda pointed out that the plan was flawed. This made Hakari angry, and they both started blaming each other and fighting over Rentaro. He intervened, taking all the blame for not being experienced. As he ran off, Rentaro called out for the vice principal, and she suddenly appeared to punish him for running. She got on top of him, and he was terrified. However, Inda stopped her, pretending to see a school inspector. The vice principal got worried and quickly left. The girls wondered why Rentaro acted so hastily, and he explained that he loved them both and didn't want them to fight. He'd rather ruin his first kiss than cause them to argue. Hearing this, both girls told him he could kiss the other so he wouldn't waste his first kiss. Rentaro was surprised by their reaction, but he could tell that they both genuinely loved him. He hugged them both and came up with another plan, a three-way kiss. He thought they wouldn't agree, but seeing them getting along, he believed it could work. The girls were embarrassed at the thought of kissing each other but eventually agreed, and they finally had their first kiss together. The next day, Rentaro, Inda, and Hakari were at the library. Hakari was looking for a cookbook to make food for Rentaro, but Inda wanted a book about winning a man's heart through his stomach. They started arguing, and Rentaro told them to get along, reminding them that they both had shared a kiss. This made the girls embarrassed. Rentaro was looking for another book when he encountered another girl who gave him a surprising feeling. He wondered if she was another one of his soulmates. The girl backed away, and he realized she was the librarian. The librarian didn't speak but used her book to point to phrases to communicate with Rentaro. He found this confusing at first, so he thought they weren't supposed to talk in the library. She asked him what he was looking for, and he tried to mime that he wanted a funny story. The girl asked him why he wasn't talking, and he asked her the same question. She apologized and was about to find someone else to help him, but he stopped her and asked for her assistance. Rentaro wanted recommendations for a romance story with a happy ending, so she began selecting some books for him. Rentaro was surprised when she picked out a lot of books. The girl apologized and told him to choose the ones he wanted. However, Rentaro decided to take all of them since she had picked them out for him. When he tried to check them out, he found out his library card wasn't ready yet. The girl offered him her own personal book, and Rentaro happily accepted it. He wondered about her name, and the girl showed him her ID, revealing her name was Shizuka. That night, Rentaro found out her name. Rentaro started reading a book about a princess and her loyal knight. The knight protected her from a dragon, and they developed feelings for each other. However, the princess was supposed to marry another prince. The knight rushed to the princess, wishing they could defy their fates. Rentaro was rooting for them, but the story ended on a cliffhanger. The next day, Rentaro thanked Shizuka for the book. He realized she brought him the second book, and he happily accepted it. He felt the need to find a way to repay her, so he bought her a drink, and they started talking about the book outside. Shizuka shared that it was her favorite book, and Rentaro was impressed by how well she knew it, using phrases to communicate. She mentioned that she's glad people don't find her weird, revealing that she's never had a real friend. This struck a chord with Rentaro, and he got an idea. He asked to borrow her first book again. The next day, Shizuka brought him the third book, but Rentaro didn't show up. Several days passed, and as Shizuka walked around the school, she noticed Rentaro with Hakari and Inda. They commented on how tired he looked, and he explained that he had been busy at night. The girls wondered what he was up to, but Rentaro continued to yawn. Hakari suddenly kissed him, saying she was giving him her energy, and Rentaro called her his angel. Inda wanted to do the same but ended up headbutting him. Shizuka realized that he had a girlfriend and thought he must be too busy to read. She reflected on how others found her weird for her way of talking, and even her mother considered her a freak. Nobody seemed to have time for someone like her. However, Rintaro came to find her, saying he could finally repay her for lending him the books. He had her install an app on her phone and revealed that he had manually typed out the entire first book. When she talks with the book, they never spoke face to face because she always had to look at the book. With the app, they could look at each other while she talks. Rintaro hoped it would help her with communication, and he encouraged her to try it. Shizuka told him that she loved him, but she quickly took it back, saying not to worry. However, Rintaro told her that he loved her too. Shizuka believed they were destined not to be together, but Rintaro claimed they would overcome it, even if it was their fate. He introduced Shizuka to the other girls and asked to add her as his newest girlfriend. Inda thought he was crazy, but Hikari thanked him for staying with them even after finding someone else. Rintaro stated that his feelings toward them hadn't changed, likening them to an oil field and Shizuka as a completely new field. He planned on cherishing all of them even more than before. Rintaro promises to show his love through his actions. He tells them that if he ever lets them down, he will make up for it by committing a very serious act, seppuku. Inda accepts his promise, and Rintaro now has one more girlfriend. But he still has 97 more soulmates to find. After introducing his new girlfriend to both Shizuka and Karen, Rintaro notices that the girl appears normal at first. However, when they greet her, she responds using an electronic voice on her cell phone. This surprises Shizuka and Karen, finding it quite unusual. Rintaro explains that he added the names of Shizuka's classmates and data from Circlet Love Story Volume 2 to help her communicate. He also reveals that Shizuka uses quotes from her favorite series to talk. Shizuka demonstrates by saying all three of their names in a robotic voice. Rintaro continues explaining that she is a book-loving librarian who makes cute movements with her toes while reading. These movements vary depending on her emotional reactions to different parts of the story. For example, her happy moments resemble a dog's tail wagging, and when she's scared, she shakes her feet. Rintaro finds this quirk very endearing, but Shizuka is embarrassed to learn about it because she didn't even realize she was doing it. Rintaro then shares that Hikari also has a cute habit when she's deep in thought. She puts her hand in her mouth and sometimes starts biting her fingers. Rintaro finds this habit so attractive that it quickens his heartbeat. However, Hikari is surprised to hear about this seemingly indecent habit she has without realizing it. Rintaro goes on to talk about Karen, mentioning that when she receives a compliment that makes her happy, she twirls her hair with her finger. This contrasts with her usual demeanor and makes her even cuter in his eyes. His comments make the three girls feel self-conscious as they realize Rintaro has been observing them closely. Rintaro also talks about the girls' kissing habits. Hikari makes a pout when they kiss, while Karen becomes so immersed in the moment that she forgets to breathe. Shizuka, curious, asks if they have ever exchanged kisses. Rintaro is confused by the expression, but Shizuka clarifies that she understood they have already kissed. Hikari asks if Shizuka is also interested in kissing, to which she replies that she is saving herself for her wedding day, emphasizing her commitment to maintaining her chastity. Rintaro reassures Shizuka that it's okay to take her time and that he'll wait until she's ready for a kiss. Meanwhile, Shizuka's confession makes Hikari and Karen feel a strong desire to kiss Rintaro at that very moment. The girls playfully try to feed Rintaro, but they end up arguing over who came up with the idea first. Rintaro intervenes, reminding them to be careful because they're getting very close and might accidentally kiss again. He also notices that Shizuka might find it challenging to make friends with both girls right away, but assures them that he's prepared for the situation. Rintaro explains that when people want to get to know someone, they often act in a way that's not genuine because they're afraid of revealing their true thoughts and potentially facing disapproval or hatred from the other person. He believes it's easier to connect with someone who has already shown their true feelings because it reduces complications in the relationship. To help break the ice, Rintaro suggests playing a card game called the Monkey Game with a twist. The loser has to be tickled. His goal is to induce laughter and create a friendly atmosphere. He calls this operation Let's Tickle and Laugh to become friends. The girls agree, finding the idea of being tickled by Rintaro exciting. They start playing, and Rintaro wins the first round, making Karen the loser. She eagerly asks Rintaro to tickle her, but Hikari advises her to hide her enthusiasm. Rintaro begins to tickle Karen, and she claims not to feel anything, but he believes she's just playing hard to get and continues tickling. Karen lies down on the floor as if inviting him to tickle her more, but Rintaro realizes that it might become inappropriate, and they continue playing. Rintaro wins the next round, and this time, Hikari loses. She expresses her happiness and gets playful, but Karen reminds her to stay in control. Rintaro starts tickling Hikari, and she laughs and acts silly. The laughter eventually turns into moans, and she apologizes, admitting she's weak to tickling. Rintaro reassures her, and Hikari moves away, saying she almost wet herself from happiness. Rintaro wins the third round, and this time, Shizuka is the loser. He's excited to make Shizuka laugh, and he begins to tickle her. Shizuka tries to control herself and laughs, but she uses a device to express her laughter, which surprises Rintaro. Shizuka explains that it might sound sad, but it's the only way she can express herself. Rintaro finds her cute and continues tickling her. The other two girls realize that Rintaro hasn't lost yet, and now their mission is to tickle him. They become determined to tickle Rintaro as well, and their playful competition intensifies. Rintaro finds the situation strange, and in the fourth round, he actually loses to Shizuka. He encourages Shizuka to give it her all. Meanwhile, the other two girls feel jealous but try to hide it. Shizuka calmly pokes Rintaro, making him laugh. Hikari doesn't understand why Shizuka doesn't take the opportunity to touch Rintaro more. She thinks even if Shizuka's hand accidentally touched him, nobody would judge her for it. She reflects on Shizuka's demure and shy nature, observing her cute gestures and high-pitched voice. Hikari believes Shizuka's gestures might come off as fake. In contrast, Shizuka seems so shy and fragile that she resembles a little cuddly animal, making her a formidable rival in Hikari's eyes. The tickling session eventually ends, and Rintaro mentions he laughed a lot. He goes to the bathroom, and Hikari wonders if he went for a happy reason. Karen asks Shizuka what just happened, looking serious. She asks if Shizuka is acting modest because they're all there. Shizuka denies it, but Karen insists that Shizuka was just poking Rintaro because she wanted to touch him more. Kine asks why Shizuka was acting silly, and Hikari explains it was because Kine had frightened her earlier. She adds that Shizuka had been screaming, but Kine denies it and calls her ignorance a blessing. Shizuka says that they were Rintaro's girlfriends before she came along, and she didn't want to disrupt things. Karen becomes angry, saying she expected Shizuka to say something like that. She doesn't like seeing Shizuka avoid Rintaro without expressing her true feelings. Hikari chimes in, pointing out that Karen also hides her feelings to act nice, which highlights the hypocrisy in her words. Karen tells Hikari to quiet down and avoid starting a fight. Shizuka apologizes once more, but Karen gets frustrated because Shizuka keeps repeating the same things. Hikari explains that Kine would probably react similarly if Shizuka had said something different. Hearing another insult, Karen gets close to being really angry with Hikari. Shizuka decides to be very honest with them, as that's what they seem to want. She explains that she can't bear the fear of Rintaro comparing her to them. Kine is saddened by this and wonders if she appears scary to Shizuka. Shizuka clarifies that she expressed herself poorly and actually finds Hikari very elegant, graceful, feminine, and with a beautiful body. She finds Karen very beautiful with confidence that matches her outer beauty. Shizuka believes she is common and lacks grace, with a childlike body and a sad, reserved personality. This makes her feel inferior to the others. Karen tries to comfort her, saying Shizuka is beautiful and her quiet demeanor is elegant and feminine. Karen takes the opportunity to apologize for everything that has happened, and Hikari tells Shizuka not to worry about what Karen says because she tends to get angry easily. Hikari reassures Shizuka that Rintaro loves them all more than they can imagine and surely has wonderful things to say about her too. Karen adds that Shizuka shouldn't hold back and should express her desires to Rintaro. Hikari suggests that Shizuka can call them by their first names since they are all Rintaro's girlfriends equally. Shizuka starts addressing them by their first names. Meanwhile, Rintaro is away, feeling happy that everything worked out. He remembers the time when Shizuka was tickling him and noticed Karen looking angry. He realized he needed to take action before it turned into a fight. However, he also remembers his purpose with the monkey game was to encourage them to express their feeling. If he makes them hide what they feel, it would increase the distance between them, not decrease it. Rintaro realizes that he needs to show courage first so that the girls can do the same. To create a private moment, he goes to the bathroom. While he's away, he understands that Karen wasn't angry for no reason. She was upset because she wanted Shizuka to be honest. Hikari intervened to prevent Karen from directing all her anger at Shizuka. Shizuka accepted what Kine had said and mustered the courage to express her true feeling. When Rintaro returns, Karen suggests they continue the previous punishment because she doesn't think Shizuka's pokes were enough. Shizuka should punish him again. Hikari asks if she wants to tickle him once more, and Shizuka realizes the two are supporting her. Feeling grateful for their kindness, she recalls Karen's advice to be open about her feelings. She stops in front of Rintaro and admits that she wants to kiss him. She confesses that her story about waiting until marriage was a lie. Rintaro acknowledges that he already knew this, and Shizuka shares her desire for a kiss. Rintaro caresses her and apologizes, finding her cute, but Shizuka takes his hand and rubs it on her face. They share a kiss, and Shizuka blushes, not showing much reaction. Hakari suggests that now that Karen has encouraged Shizuka to be honest, it's Karen's turn to be truthful. Karen claims she has nothing to declare. Hakari leaves her alone and asks Rentaro to kiss her too. Karen becomes jealous and asks if Shizuka is better than her. Rentaro reassures her, saying all three of them are the cutest in the world. Karen agrees but mentions she already expected that answer. She allows Rentaro to kiss her, saying she's not that interested, and they hug. Rentaro calls her cute, but she pushes him away. He finds her bashful expression amusing, and she playfully hits him. Finally, Rentaro expresses his desire to kiss Karen as well, pointing out that if he doesn't initiate it, it might not happen. He asks if she's interested, and Karen, although reluctant, agrees. They share a kiss, and after kissing all three of them, Rentaro looks a bit silly while staring at the sky. Hakari asks what's on his mind, and Rentaro says they're such fantastic girlfriends that he feels it's a waste for them to be with him. He expresses his gratitude for all three of them, and the girls interpret this statement in various ways, leading to laughter among the group. The girls were eagerly waiting for their test results. Hakari wondered why Rentaro was taking so long to return from getting his cell phone. Shizuka mentioned that Rentaro values his cell phone a lot because it holds pictures and memories of the three of them. They recalled Rentaro saying how important the device was to him. When Rentaro returned to the room, he found Nano, another girl, there. Nano informed them that the test results were already out. She confidently stated that checking the results would be a waste of time for her since she already knew she had the best grade. As they looked at each other, Rentaro felt a familiar connection, similar to when he first met his three girlfriends. He invited Nano to check the results together, but she declined, considering it a waste of time. Rentaro apologized and left the room. Upon returning to see the results, Rentaro praised Nano's outstanding performance. He ranked 88th, so he couldn't say much. Nano, on the other hand, had aced all the subjects, sparking Rentaro's interest. He asked if any of the three knew more about Nano. Shizuka described her as a reclusive girl immersed in her study, while Inda mentioned not having exchanged a single word with her. People talked about Nano being like a robot, always seeking precision and efficiency. She was capable of answering any question on any subject, earning her the nickname of a highly advanced human AI. Later, everyone heads to the biology lab, where Rentaro is partnered with Nano for some work. He leaves Nano's study while he goes to get a microscope. On his way back, he notices that Nano is different from his other three girlfriends. His previous girlfriends were more on the cute side, while Nano is elegant and pretty. Rentaro suggests they don't need to use the book in the lab, but he realizes Nano is copying cells from a notebook, considering it more efficient than using the microscope. Rentaro thinks this undermines the practical part of the class, but Nano argues that redoing the same steps is a waste of time since scientists have already provided the answers. Rentaro warns her about the professor watching and suggests doing the work properly. Nano takes the microscope, and Rentaro believes she'll do things right, but she stubbornly puts the book under the microscope. Rentaro realizes why people call her an AI. Her reasoning is logical, not practical, and she comes across as cold towards people. This has given her a not-so-good reputation among other students. Meanwhile, Rentaro accidentally cuts himself while cutting an onion. He goes to the sink to wash his hands and tells Nano he's going to the infirmary. Surprisingly, Nano starts sucking his finger, claiming it's more efficient due to saliva containing antimicrobial agents, eliminating the need for antiseptic. Rentaro is surprised and embarrassed, noting Nano's soft lips and hot tongue. While this awkward moment unfolds, Rentaro's three girlfriends remain focused on their work. Eventually, the class comes to an end. Rentaro goes to Nano to express his gratitude for her help, but she insists he doesn't need to thank her. However, Rentaro still feels the need to thank her properly and offers to buy her a refrigerator. Nano declines, explaining that soft drinks are not suitable for hydration, leaving Rentaro with limited options. He decides to be honest and shares that he simply wants to get to know her better, asking if she minds. Nano responds that she doesn't care, but meeting him doesn't make sense to her. Rentaro explains that for him, talking to people is enjoyable and meaningful, akin to having hobbies or taking summer vacations. Nano, however, states that she has never engaged in such activities, considering them unproductive. According to her, any activity that doesn't contribute to academic grades is not worth pursuing. Nano doesn't find value in fun if it doesn't produce something of tangible importance. Rentaro argues that high grades and performance aren't everything, but Nano countered, emphasizing the importance of activities that have prospects for the future. Rentaro tries to convince her that the meaning of life is to have fun, but Nano maintains that the meaning of something is defined by its value, and value is determined by utility and benefits. She draws parallels with money and knowledge, stating that they work in a similar way. Rentaro clarifies that he isn't discussing the definition of words, but Nano insists that if something cannot be defined in words, it is merely an illusion. Seeing Rentaro's reluctance to agree, Nano declares that debating with him is a waste of time, as she believes he won't change his way of thinking. This leaves Rentaro with lingering doubts because Nano's perspective is vastly different from his own, making him question if she could be his soulmate. Upon reaching home, Nano begins her studies but finds herself thinking about Rentaro and why she sucked his finger. Various possibilities cross her mind, but she acknowledges the danger of inaction he was facing due to a high risk. Realizing her distraction, she decides to refocus by writing the value of pi multiple times on the board. However, even after this strategy, she remains distracted and writes the pi value more frequently, realizing she's wasting a lot of time. The next day, Nano goes to Rentaro and confesses her love for him. She expresses her desire for a relationship, but when Rentaro reciprocates the feelings and expresses his wish to go out with her, Nano surprisingly refuses. She insists that Rentaro should have declined her dating proposal, and since he didn't, she will refuse on his behalf. Rentaro is confused, and Nano explains that she's there to end a love that hasn't even started. Rentaro protests, stating that they both like each other, but Nano argues that romance leads to marriage and childbirth, things she doesn't need for now. She dismisses the idea of teenage romance, claiming it makes no sense to her. Nano firmly declares that they will never have an affair. Rentaro refuses to accept this, asserting that if he continues to love her, the chance of romance happening remains. Nano recalls the unproductive day before when she thought about him a lot. Rentaro then suggests a date, promising that if he can't win her over in one day, he will not give up on her. To formalize the agreement, Rentaro extends his hand for Nano to sign. In this way, the story takes an unexpected turn as Nano, despite confessing her love, refuses to pursue a romantic relationship with Rentaro, citing her own unconventional views on love and relationships. A few days later, Rentaro waits nervously for Nano as it's their first date. When she finally appears, Rentaro is captivated by her casual outfit, and he can't help but drool. Nano interprets his expression as sickness and asks if he wants to cancel the date. Despite feeling a bit unwell, Rentaro insists on continuing, thinking canceling would be inefficient. Rentaro plans to give Nano the best time, so they head to a carousel. Nano finds it pointless, but when Rentaro takes a photo, she criticizes the camera, calling it illogical. Undeterred, Rentaro compliments her beauty. They move on to a haunted house, but Nano dismisses it as anti-scientific. When fake ghosts try to scare them, Rentaro gets frightened, admitting he's scared of things jumping on him. Nano questions his reaction, and they leave, with Nano renaming it Haunted Humans. Next, they ride in rotating cups, and Nano questions the logic of people queuing up for such a ride, theorizing it might be a brainwashing contraption. Moving to a giant maze, Nano climbs a wall for a better view, suggesting it would be more efficient to build a direct path to the exit. Rentaro explains the dead ends are part of the maze. They then go on a Ferris wheel, and Rentaro notices Nano is scared of heights. She justifies her fear, and Rentaro offers to sit next to her. As they sit together, their hands touch, and Nano intertwines her fingers with his. After enjoying various activities, Rentaro and Nano sit down to look at the photos they took. Rentaro notices that Nano seems bored in many photos, but he points out one where she looks happy. Nano questions how he can tell when she's happy since she usually appears serious. Rentaro explains that it's not hard to notice if you pay attention. Rentaro emphasizes that what matters is that she had fun that day. Nano admits she had more fun than expected, but considers it not necessarily a good thing because the fun didn't bring her much. She apologizes for thinking that way, but Rentaro reassures her, saying everyone has different experiences. He appreciates her honesty and suggests getting rid of the photos they took together since it was a day without much meaning. As Rentaro attempts to burn the photos, Nano stops him, recalling her statement about losing photos making them cease to exist. Rentaro explains that her concern about losing something is proof that she now has something valuable. He acknowledges that it might not have practical use in the future, but the fact that she didn't want to lose it gives it value. Nano starts crying, and Rentaro comforts her, offering a tissue. After using it, Nano decides to disinfect it before returning it. Rentaro humorously asks if she planned to lick the tissue, and Nano replies that she will wash it. In a moment of silence, Nano attempts to rekindle their relationship, expressing her desire for romance to fill the void of meaningful moments she's been missing. Rentaro agrees, and Nano wastes no time in kissing him, seeing it as the most efficient way to fulfill their desires. The two return home hand in hand, their relationship taking a new turn after a day of shared experiences and emotions. The next day, Rentaro shares the entire story with his other 3 girlfriends and asks if he can include Nano in his collection of girlfriends. Inda casually says he can do whatever he wants because she's already used to it. Hakari agrees but asks him to continue being worthy of being by his side. Shizuka, considering herself a reinforcement girlfriend, doesn't want to impose herself. Rentaro expresses gratitude, promising to love them all equally or perform seppuku if he fails. Nano suggests that taking poison would be more efficient if he wanted to end his life. Despite this, Hakari is curious to know more about their meeting at the park, expressing her desire to go out with Rentaro too. Rentaro is unsure where to take them all, and Hakari suggests going to a park with a pool. The next day, Karen decides to visit a swimwear store to get ready for a day at the pool park. However, she's puzzled about why Hakari suggested this seemingly out of nowhere. Karen doesn't own a suitable bikini for the occasion since she has only been to the pool with friends before. Additionally, she isn't comfortable wearing cute bikinis. Despite this, she contradicts herself by claiming that the bikinis in the store aren't cute. The saleswoman apologizes for not meeting her expectations. While browsing, Karen notices a standout bikini but rejects the idea of wearing it, thinking it wouldn't look good on her. However, she considers that Rentaro might like and compliment it. On the day of the meeting, Rentaro comments on the recently opened park and is impressed by the turnout. 3 of his girlfriends join him, boosting his spirits. Shizuka apologizes for her outfit choice, feeling she caused embarrassment. Rentaro reassures her, praising her modesty in wearing the school swimsuit. He notices Karen hasn't arrived yet, and is surprised to see her wearing a towel around her body. Rentaro urges Karen to go home and change, concerned about her being seen naked. Karen explains that she's just cold and plans to watch them without participating. Despite Rentaro's worry, Hakari suggests they wait for a day when everyone is willing to have fun. Nano suggests Karen take a sunbath close to the chairs, thanking everyone for understanding but asking them not to worry. Nano claims not to be worried, leading to a disagreement between her and Karen due to their lack of closeness. Rentaro observes that Karen is in better spirits than he thought. Shizuka admits she's not skilled in naval battles and offers to keep watch with Karen. Karen insists she's fine and isolates herself from the group. They all get into the pool, and Rentaro notices Shizuka spinning around. He asks her what's going on, and she says she doesn't know but feels like she can't escape this fate. Meanwhile, Nano thinks that playing might be a form of survival training for unforeseen scenarios. Accidentally, Hakari falls into Rentaro's lap due to the current, placing her chest on his arm. Rentaro questions if she did it on purpose, but Hakari pretends not to understand, making him blush. Nano then goes to Rentaro and puts his hand on her chest, expressing a desire for him to feel the feminine appeal inside her. Hakari gets jealous and places Rentaro's hand on her chest too. They start arguing over whose breasts are better, with Nano claiming hers are firmer and Hakari countering that hers are softer. The argument intensifies until they turn to Rentaro, asking for his opinion on their breasts. However, when they look at him, they notice Rentaro has passed out from all the stimulation. Nano explains that he still has a weak pulse, but is no longer breathing. Hakari decides they need to save him with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Hakari puts the plan into action, but Nano intervenes, stating Hakari doesn't know how to do the procedure correctly. Nano insists she can't let Rentaro die because she still wants to learn many things from him. Nano then attempts mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but Hakari pushes her away. Seeing Rentaro still unconscious, Hakari despairs but resolves to perform the procedure correctly this time. Meanwhile, Shizuka keeps spinning in the pool, explaining that when she got separated from Rentaro, she tried to swim back but got carried away. She struggles with a float and sends a message for help, but the float bursts against the wall. Despite this, she manages to reach the pool edge. Meanwhile, Rentaro remains unconscious, and Nano tries to revive him. Nano suggests seeking help from someone who knows what to do, and Hakari proposes finding a male lifeguard. On their way, some guys invite them to join, but Hakari declines, mentioning their urgency. One guy comments on Hakari's soft arms and shares a questionable theory about the similarity between arm softness and breast softness. He tries to touch Hakari's arm, but Nano intervenes, poking his eyes and explaining it's the most efficient way to deal with a pervert. The guys threaten them, and Nano decides to stay while Hakari looks for help for Rentaro. Hakari questions why Nano is taking such risks, but Nano recalls protecting Hakari earlier. Hakari argues that if something happens to her, Rentaro would be equally sad. Nano explains that their relationship just started, and Rentaro would be sadder if something happened to her. The guys approach, and Hakari insists none of them will stay with them. Nano questions Hakari's decision, explaining their relationship with Rentaro is still new. The perverts get impatient, and Rentaro appears in time to save the girls. He questions the guys and is told to stay out of it. Rentaro learns about Nano blinding one of the perverts and Hikari's confrontation. Rentaro proposes spending time with the guys to make up for Nano's actions. The pervert suggests Rentaro take his girlfriend and leave, but Rentaro clarifies that both Nano and Hikari are his girlfriends. The pervert challenges Rentaro to prove it by kissing both girls. Rentaro refuses, explaining it's not something they should do in front of people. However, Nano pulls him and gives him a kiss. Hikari follows suit. The guys, overwhelmed by this modern relationship, run away. Hikari asks Rentaro when he woke up, and Nano wonders how he found them. Before they get answers, Karen appears, upset with the scene she witnessed. The scene shifts to a few moments earlier when Karen was sunbathing. Suddenly, she notices some guys approaching Nano and Hikari, prompting her to go help them. On her way, she finds Rentaro lying on the floor, dry and pale. Worried, she tries to wake him up, and he only comes to when she mentions the girls being in danger. Rentaro immediately asks where they are, and upon Karen's pointing, he rushes to their aid. Everything becomes clear as they understand how Rentaro got to them. Nano remarks that waking Rentaro up this way is very efficient. Rentaro expresses gratitude to Nano for protecting Hikari, emphasizing Hikari's importance to him. He requests Nano not to take too many risks, reminding her that he would be sad if something happened to her. This makes Nano realize Rentaro cares about everyone equally. She apologizes and thanks him for his concern. Karen notices that Shizuka is still missing, and Hikari mentions not seeing her since they left the pool with the current. Rentaro despairs, thinking Shizuka might have been carried away by the current. He runs to save her. Shizuka, meanwhile, continues to ask for help until her phone dies. Rentaro shouts her name, and she waves her arm to get his attention. Rentaro can't hear her, but after putting in effort, he finally hears her. He rushes to her side, apologizing for leaving her alone. Shizuka kisses him on the way back, but Rentaro blushes, suggesting it's not the right place for it. They return to the other girls, and Rentaro decides to rest while they have fun, inviting Karen to join him. He teases Kine for looking at Hikari and Nano's breasts, and notices Karen's discomfort. Rentaro believes Karen chose not to wear a bikini to the pool due to confidence issues, but she denies it, claiming she's just cold. Rentaro points out her melon soda with ice cream, suggesting it's not the behavior of someone who's cold. He explains that Hikari and Nano are exceptions in terms of attractiveness for their age, and high school girls typically have a body similar to Karen's and Shizuka's. Kine, feeling insecure, denies being feminine. Rentaro asks her to stand and removes her coat, complimenting her appearance. She calls him a pervert, but Rentaro insists she looked great in the bikini. He hugs her and explains that she's not better or worse than the other girls. They all have unique quality, and he finds her attractive as she is. Rentaro invites Karen to join the other girls, but Karen is still motionless and red. He kisses her too, and they all return to the pool. Nano asks if Karen's cold has passed, and she confirms. The other girls compliment Karen's bikini, making her embarrassed. Seeing everyone together, Rentaro decides it's time to have fun in the pool for the rest of the day, enjoying the date as it should be. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.